Big plans to revive Malaysia's economy, fight corruption and bring unity back to the country. That's all on Anwar Ibrahim's agenda as he begins his first day in the top job.
How's your first day of work?
Busy and heavy, a lot of problems, a lot of issues, but God willing, inshallah, we'll be able to overcome.
Unlike his predecessors who have reported in suit and tie on day one, Anwar Ibrahim is setting a different tone for the start of his tenure. His first order of business, tackling inflation, the top worry on many voters' minds.
Apakah keutamaan saya sekarang ialah kos sara hidup. Ya, walaupun ada yang positif umpamanya dengan kekuatan ringgit sekarang dan juga soal bursa saham yang lebih positif menunjuk keyakinan kepada pentadbiran kerajaan sekarang, tetapi saya masih merasa keutamaan itu harus terhadap kos sara hidup, harga barang yang mencekam dan menekan kehidupan rakyat.
Mr. Anwar says he'll have a special meeting with the relevant agencies and will conduct focused discussions on actions needed to reduce the cost of living. And after more than 2 years of political turmoil, he'll be looking to keep his new government strong and united. Mr. Anwar says he has the numbers for that. His unity government includes the Barisan Nasional Coalition, as well as East Malaysian parties, Gabungan Parti Sarawak and Gabungan Rakyat Sabah. Pakatan Harapan's biggest rival, Perikatan Nasional, will remain in the opposition.
Kajian perpaduan bermakna seorang Perdana Menteri harus merujuk kepada parti masing-masing dan yang akan mengusulkan nama. Jadi
while names are being decided upon, Mr. Anwar says cabinet ministers will be urged to take a pay cut. He has said he will not be accepting a salary. The new cabinet will also be smaller than previous administrations. For now, all eyes are on who will join the cabinet as Mr. Anwar seeks to chart a new path for Malaysia.
And for more, CNA's Afifa Arifin, she joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. Afifa, we heard what the Prime Minister said, that he's got a lot on his plate. In terms of his schedule, how does it look like?
Well, on Monday, as we know, is a public holiday, so he resumes work officially on Tuesday, and he's got a lot of things that he wants to get done. As we heard, earlier, we know that all eyes will be closely watching who the new Prime Minister will appoint into his cabinet. With so many parties involved in this unity government, there is this need to really discuss the appointment of cabinet positions with all the parties to ensure that the positions will be given fairly. So that's the first main thing for us to look out for. But after that, we know that Mr. Anwar also said that Parliament convenes on 19th December, and top of the agenda will be for him to table a motion of confidence to prove that he does indeed have the majority support of MPs in the House. Of course, what comes next is to pass the national budget for 2023 to retable that, and that will be a very urgent matter because by then there's less than a month to go before the start of the new financial year, and the ministries will, of course, need the funds to continue operating. So it's unclear whether Mr. Anwar's team will make any sort of deep changes to the budget that was presented by the previous government. What's to look out for that is whether he will trim subsidies next year and targeting them at the most needy instead of the blanket provisions that we saw earlier to shield citizens from high inflation. For Mr. Anwar, he also said that the main priority will be to reduce the public's burden given the rising cost of living, and among his first few instructions as Prime Minister was to task the relevant agencies to start working on resolving this.
Well, that's right. Another urgent matter is the lineup of this so-called unity cabinet. What can we expect?
Well, earlier Mr. Anwar said that Sabah's Gabungan Rakyat Sabah coalition has also joined his unity government. And like I said, forming a government and filling the cabinet positions will be something very tricky because there's just so many component parties involved. This means that there are at least 4 coalitions and even more smaller parties involved in his unity government. So on the one hand, accommodating the demands of so many parties could lead to a bloated cabinet because you'd have to increase the number of positions to appease all of the parties. But Mr. Anwar has also been very firm that he wants to downsize the cabinet because the previous administration had more than 70 people, including ministers and deputy ministers involved in the cabinet. So he will also need to accommodate the senior leaders from the various parties, most of whom have been a part of government at different times, but under different administrations. So, for example, the old faces in Pakatan Harapan, leaders from within his own coalition, like TAP's Anthony Lok or Amanah's Muhammad Sabu, but he will also have to include leaders from Barisan Nasional. And so far, there have been indications that Barisan Nasional will receive a deputy prime minister position, a portfolio that some analysts say could be given to Barisan Nasional's number 2, Muhammad Hassan. And we also know that a DPM position could be given to GPS from Sarawak as well. On top of this, the leaders from the Eastbourne Malaysia parties would also want to have bigger portfolios given the number of seats that they've won in the last election. So a key position that we're also looking out for in his cabinet is the finance minister position. And we know this morning Mr. Anwar said that he has not considered helming that position so far, but we don't know who he intends to put in that position that is very, very crucial for him to fill at this point. So it'll be very tricky, but the clock is also ticking for him to form a cabinet as soon as possible and get the government running.
That's right. On doing all of that and not taking a salary as well. Well, thanks very much, Afifah Arifin, speaking to us live there from Kuala Lumpur. And for more on how markets are reacting to Anwar's day 1 in office, Liz?
Thanks, Oteli. Well, Malaysian stocks, they fell today amid profit-taking across all sectors. And that's after a 4% jump in the KLCI yesterday, which was the most since March 2020, following Anwar's appointment. The index ended about 1% lower today. Investors are now paying close attention to the cabinet lineup and whether the new government will be able to address high inflation and signs of a slowdown in the economy. Meantime, the ringgit holding on to its gains against the dollar after rallying as much as 0.9% earlier. Now, that had made it Asia's best performing currency for a second straight day.